Greetings and salutations, YouTube, and the internet in general. This is Eartuum, and today we're playing Stellaris. I have been so excited about this game coming out. I'm led to believe that it actually holds up to much of its hype. We're not suffering from Molyneux syndrome here, but for those of you who don't know, Stellaris is the latest offering from Paradox, the people who brought us Europa Universalis, Victoria, Crusader Kings, probably one of the best known games at the moment, and they specialise in grand strategy, which is normally on a very asymmetric scale. You can start out as, say, England or as Monaco in many of their games, and they tend to be historical. In fact, they're almost exclusively historical. Playing a Paradox mega campaign up until now could take you from 767, I think, AD to 1963, I think. So, quite the scope of history. Well, Stellaris takes us straight into the 23rd century. It's their first sort of truly speculative offering, although Paradox has always been very much about alternate history. Just had to get something there. So, now you can play as humans in this game, which is the sort of merging of grand strategy in the 4X game, because, unlike their other games, it has a symmetric start. Everyone starts out, well, almost everyone starts out in a relatively weak position with 1 star, fresh into the world. We can play as humans. We're not going to. We can see here some pre-constructed species and empires that we can play, such as the United Nations of Earth, a gentle democracy based around the principles of individuals striving and finding and meeting new and exciting alien races. Or the Commonwealth of Man, game geared around touring the galaxy, finding new and interesting species, and then killing them. All manner of these things, for instance, these reptilian fellows of the Trin Empire, militarist collectivists, but we're not going to deal with one of these pre-made species. No, we're going to create our own new empire. Yes. So, first of all, we can select our species appearance. Okay. So yes, there's all manner of mammalian options available to us. What kind of, we could play as the standard humans. Then there's something that vaguely seems inspired by the Beast, from Beauty and the Beast. Not quite give us appearance. These horrifying Nosferatu creatures. What I can only assume are winged oh my god, yes, they're actually the winged monkeys! Oh, wow, I did not realise that. Adorable fox creatures, but that's only the mammalian options. We have all sorts. We've got our classic reptilian, something a bit more like the traditional greys, something which looks suspiciously like that figure of StarCraft. Not going to particularly play it. The toad frogs there. Horrifying anglerfish creatures, all manner. Birds. Now, the appearance, to an extent, is decorative. It's not completely. Oh God, what? It's not completely cosmetic. Creatures of the same sort of broad kingdom of life. Kingdom? Yeah, it would be kingdom. Mind you, is it order? Order, yeah, of life, are likely to be, quite more positively inclined towards you. That creature has glowing eyes, good lord. Let's see, there's the classic insectoids. Well, Oh yeah. Many people have complained, oh, but all of these creatures are basically just humans in different kinds of suits. Look at their cat people. You know? And these birds, they've all got people in suits. No, you don't. You want to play something without a suit? Play one of these creatures. It's just a little bit reminiscent of the is it xenomorphs from Aliens? I think it is. If you want to, there's other things you can play. You can play whatever the hell this is. I mean, Jesus Christ, that is one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. And yes, finally there's the fungoid options, including a race that may look familiar to those of you who followed Paradox Zone's streams. Blorg, blorg, blorg. And... Oh, that's cool! It's a mammalian creature that's been infected by a sentient fungus. Oh, that's so satisfying. I don't want to play those people for this run, but I'm definitely remembering that. Okay, so for this run, I want to try and find something relatively cute and harmless, like maybe these turtle people, but that's not quite right. The toad frogs are looking, pretty desirable. Let's see, do we have something? Nope. It's not really the most adorable creatures in the avian side of things, are there? I mean, that thing's fairly hilarious, but what about cute arthropods? I don't really want to. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do an insectoid run. I have something in mind for that, and I'm not. And as adorable as little space foxes are, I don't necessarily know that I want to do one of those. But then again, do I really want to... Oh dear God, what is that? Hydra! Yes, let's go spread enlightenment with that face. Oh, good lord. Fungoid does have some of the best options, but for adorable creatures, but I don't know that I necessarily want to play a fungoid, given how popular the Blorg were. I think it's going to have to be the toad frogs, which I will, in deference to Howard Taylor, not name the toad frogs. Oh. Well, what does this give us? Randomised. Kammarian. Do I like Kammarian? Yeah, actually, that's... Actually, no, I'll take that. Kammarians. Thanks, randomizer. Okay, so it also gives us a series of name lists. Just basically starting planet names, leader names based on different things. We've got human 1 at the moment. Lots of V's. Hector Krivas. Kulwax. Mammalian? Tetran. Tetran Harbour. Bemelon. Cognat Devach. Kashnak. Galato the Just. Tala the Red. I kind of like that. I want to see what else there is. Nope. Oh god, no, just apostrophes everywhere. Kashnak. Goom. What about the molluscoid ones? Nope. Pobovda. Again, all of these glottal stops. Oh, good lord. Star Hunters. I'm not really sold on any of these. Fly, cry, pounce, slash. Yeah, fearless plumage. Capricious hatchling. Actually, I could go with that. Varavi, Kamok, Juta. Mind you, though, I do have something else in mind for that. Okay. Oh, okay, so this is a sort of Adfin and Avab. It's a... Okay, there's quite a definite sort of ship naming theme here, but you know, I could go with that. I mean, what's human 2? Scrandimor, Galathor the Hunter. I actually quite like these. You know, these names. Camprapamar, Listhim the Vak. Yeah. I don't know what the ship prefix is going to be because I don't know exactly what the race is going to be at this point. It could be anything. So, alright, so at this point we're picking out the sort of the genetic traits of our species, and we're also deciding to a degree where our species has grown up, which I think we're going to decide a little bit ahead of time. Now, there are 7 different types of habitable world in Stellaris. They all have nitrogen oxygen atmospheres, it's worth noting. Barren worlds, magma worlds, and so on, completely frozen over worlds, as opposed to Arctic worlds, are flat out uninhabitable. I don't think you can terraform them for reasons of just simply not being in the Goldilocks zone or close enough to it. They cannot support life. They may very simply have gravity, which can't be compensated for. They're too far out to make terraforming, making them hot or cold enough possible. So, yeah, but it's not as if the universe is going to lack for habitable worlds. The thing is, the race that grows up on them might, each race is not necessarily well adapted to all of the others. So if you grow up, and it works along this little wheel, so if you grow up on a continental world, a world similar to that of Earth, with a rocky world with nitrogen, oxygen atmosphere, active and stable hydrosphere, great land masses are separated by oceans, with large climate variations depending upon latitude and precipitation. If you start out in a continental world, your species is going to be happiest on other continental worlds. Not completely happy. How adapted your species is to a world produces a strict cap on the maximum happiness that they can achieve. That doesn't mean that they will be that happy, but they can't get any happier. So on their home world, a species has a maximum happiness of 100% because they're perfectly adapted to it. On another world, on an alien world of the same type, so going from, say, Earth to another continental world, they're capped at 80%. They just can't actually, no matter how well things are set up, there are some things that are just too alien about their world for them to reasonably survive, and thrive as well as they would on the home world. Native bacteria, eons of evolution, even just simple things like gravity. Now, as you get further away on this wheel, the less adapted you are. So if you're from a continental world, you'll do fairly well on ocean worlds, rocky worlds, nitrogen oxygen atmosphere, and a significant hydrosphere. Oceans cover more than 90% of the surface, with scattered islands making up the remaining percentage. Or you might do okay or in a tropical world, a humid rocky world with a thick nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. Seasons with significant precipitation are interchanged with drier periods. Most land masses are covered in dense vegetation. So yes, if you come from Earth, you can live in the ocean world. It's quite nice. It's fairly tropical. Well, not tropical, but it's quite it's reasonable. But there's nowhere to live. You have to deal with the fact that you've either got to live under sea or build artificial islands. And if you're living in a tropical world, well, again, it's relatively close to home, but you can bet, you can bet your bright brass bottom. That's not really a phrase. I don't know why I said that. One way or another, though, you can bet that it's full of horrible things that want to kill you. Some huge, some small, and some really small in the form of hostile diseases. If you come from Earth, though, you can live on desert and Arctic worlds, but you won't be happy. Desert worlds, dry, rocky worlds with a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. Precipitation and major bodies of surface water are relatively rare. Significant temperature variations between day and night cycles. Vegetation is scarce, but even moderate precipitation can make the desert bloom. Arrakis, known as Dune. No precipitation. It's at least it's fairly warm at times, but overall no. It's not living in the desert. There's not much to eat. There's terrible temperature variations. You're not going to have a good time unless you're adapted to it. Arctic worlds, on the other hand, have plenty of water. Well, no, usually, sometimes methane, but frigid, rocky worlds with nitrogen-oxygen atmospheres. You'll notice a pattern here. The poles are big, and significant water deposits can be found permanently frozen as glacial ice. However, the planet experiences seasonal variations, and the equatorial band is covered by vegetation. So you can just eke out a living on the equator, but good luck surviving the rest of the planet. And finally, if you're from Earth, you can't. Without severe technological aid, you cannot survive on an arid world or a tundra world. Arid worlds, dry, rocky worlds with nitrogen-oxygen atmospheres. The dust-covered terrain consists largely of mesas and canyons. Forests can be found in the more temperate polar regions, but vegetation is otherwise scarce. It doesn't even have the occasional precipitations of a desert world. It's just dry. Can't really live where there's not much water unless you're specially adapted to finding it. And finally, tundra worlds. Surprisingly enough, one of the most uninhabitable of worlds. Cold and rocky, with a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. Permafrost covers most of the surface except for the more temperate equatorial regions. A stable biosphere exists, but vegetation is mostly limited to mosses and lichens. And that, I think, is where we're going to start. I'm looking for a race that is kind of hardy, but not through any choice. They've grown up, these Kammarians. Thank you. The Kammarians have grown up on a world which, frankly, has been not so much unforgiving in the way that, say, the tropical world is, where you're at risk of constantly getting eaten, but just desolate. There's not much rain. What water there is tied up in permafrost, and so there's been so little evolutionary pressure for the most part that, there's been heavy evolutionary pressure, but the niche of successful life is trapped down to very simple, easily disrupted ecological webs, and it's in that environment that the Kammarians have grown up. Thixla? I don't like that. Obaria? No. Acacia, Vaxraka, Dirvanus, Obaria, Toxica. Cormath. I like it, but I want a different star name. Oh wait, no, I had an idea. I wanted to do this, didn't I? So, this world is Caliban. Around the star of Prospero. There we go. You can also select the starting solar system. So, for instance, you can start in Sol, a system modelled after Earth's solar system with adjacent stars, and it will start you on Earth, on a what is essentially Earth. In this case, it would be named Caliban, with nearby, I think, Alpha Centauri and Barnard Star, possibly Bernard Star. I'm not really sure. Starts out in the Deneb system. Oh, that's one of the pre-selected races, but we're going for a random. So that's stable. Excellent. So, bearing in mind we've grown up on this awful, awful planet. Did I just catch some... Wait, I need to go back and catch that. Oh, damn it! I thought I'd catch the Lorem Ipsum text. Sorry, viewers. Bit of a cough. Got some water here. 1 moment. So, yeah, without many other natural advantages, I feel like the Kammarians grew up in Caliban mostly by the skin of their intelligence, their ability to manipulate their environment, and intense social conflict. That, I'm very sorry, background noise of that. Let me just take care of that. Right, okay, so, sorry about that. I think I managed to, I'll hopefully delete that in post. So, sorry about that, viewers. Right then, so we need a people who, yeah, they've survived through intense social competition rather than cooperation, and that drive to be, to constantly outwit each other has led to an intense, sort of keen intelligence and an analytical nature of the world. So, a very intelligent people. Now you'll notice we've got trait points and trait picks. We can pick more traits, but we've got to suffer a little bit. They've got to have some disadvantages. Now, I think one of the big disadvantages of the Kammarians is their environment has very much encouraged a K-selection strategy. In biology, there's the idea of K-selection and R-selection strategies. In an R-selection strategy for breeding, you produce hundreds and hundreds of babies and leave them to fend for themselves. Sometimes, for instance, if you're a spider, or certain types of spiders, not only do you leave them to fend for themselves, but they eat you for that little bit of extra reproductive edge. By comparison, in a K-selection strategy, such as humans and elephants, you only have perhaps 3 children at the most. You only have a few children, 5 tops, and you take a great deal of care to make sure they survive. Whereas in the R-selection strategy, most of them will die quickly and horribly. In the K-selection strategy, you invest a lot in making sure that your offspring actually make it through the rigors of life, at least long enough to produce more children of their own. So the downside of that is slow reproduction, which is definitely going to be one of our problems. Members of the species are slow to learn from their experience. No, they're not. However, I think we definitely need another trait, native trait. I think that's the thing. These guys are actually, these people are tiny. That's the thing. They've grown up on a world where the highest, literally the highest reaching off the ground form of plant life is the lichen, the combination of fungus and algae. So yeah, although there's been fierce competition on their world, it's largely been geared around very, very tiny creatures. So yeah, by the standards of most races of the galaxy, these guys are minuscule. They're, a few inches high, perhaps. They are in fact frog-sized. And that doesn't really make them the best grand pandas. So yes, they suffer. They're weak. They don't breed quickly, but they make up for that with their keen intelligence. Now, there's supposed to be current traits. So we can take something that's worth 2. Adaptiveness would increase their habitability in foreign environments, but that's something that goes against the direction I want to take us. Industrious members of their society work hard, they produce excellent, work well in mines. I don't think these do at all. And I certainly don't think that they make excellent farmers and gardeners, no. These people are... Members of this species are instinctively economical and are always looking to make a good profit, whatever corners need cutting. I think they are, yeah, I think resources have been horrendously sparse in their homeworld, and that has stuck with them, even in this, approaching post-scarcity age. They're very thrifty, they make the most use of whatever they have. Doesn't make a difference to the phenotype. So, I'm going to see what kind of clothes and colours we have as options. Green, red, oh, dark purple. Oh, I think pink frogs or purple frogs. Pink frogs or purple frogs? Pink frogs. And this is Monobank. Campramar? Hefenir. Yes. Hefenir, leader of this of their nation. I don't know what the nation is yet. So you've got sort of exosuit look. Oh wow, very sort of dramatic, stylized look. Again, that sort of that sort of power armor appearance. Okay, something sort of quite posh, quite stylized. I don't even know what that is. We're back to that again. We'll decide. So we've already picked out Caliban as a tundra world. Ah yes, the appearance of their cities. So, this is purely cosmetic, but I quite like, actually, how it's a look. Now, this is quite a technical empire, so the mammalian city may be the way we wish to go. But there's also, the reptilian city is... There's a bit more... if this is the Microsoft of the future, this is the Apple of the future. It's got more glowing bits, but it's functionally the same. The avian city. Oh, look at that. It's very tall because a lot of its members probably fly, but also it's that very sort of... It's very sharp. It's very tapered in its edges. I like it, but yeah, maybe not the cold industrialness we want. Those look beautiful. Those are have definitely been secreted by their own creators. So sadly, no, I don't think so. I mean, those are wonderful, but and they've also clearly been grown. But that's the thing. This is Northern Empire that has made its start by growing its creations. This is definitely building. It's more solid engineering than anything else. And finally, the arthropoid cities. I mean, I like them. There's a sort of industrial feel to those. Oh, I might actually do it, But then again, this world is not so bleak. It's bleak, but I think there's a sense of aspiration here. And for that sense of aspiration, we've got to go with the apple cities, I'm afraid. Reptilian cities it is. Okay, so the meat of picking our government. We get to decide the ethics by which our society is ruled. Not necessarily by the society members, they will have their own beliefs as to what the appropriate ethics are, but as we can see, we have the ethical wheel. I think this might be the... Is it called the ethical calculus? That's certainly something that appeared in Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. Let us examine the ethical calculator to see what the right thing is to do. But as you can see, there's a sort of neutral point for any empire, and there are other spokes on this wheel that go between the extremes of, say, collectivism, individualism, spiritualism, materialism, militarism, pacifism, xenophobia, and xenophilia. And you basically get 3 points to choose what your government approves of. So if we went for, say, militarist, xenophobe, individualist. That uses up all our points. And our empire, is quite individualist. They support that they're suspicious of aliens, and they have a strong warrior code. But you can sacrifice, one of these more moderate viewpoints to push your way out to fanaticism. So this is a society which is, has a strong warrior tradition, but also believes that people should strive away from the common herd. What they do should very much be is up to the individual man. We must recognise that society is but a convenient fiction, the byproduct of individuals working towards parallel, overlapping, and contradictory goals, as it should be. So let's take a look at this. Yes, there's fanatic individualism. Individualism. Community is but a means to an end, not an end in itself. Only by empowering the individual to reach their maximum potential do we achieve true freedom. I need a drink. There we are. Quite the frog in my throat today. On the other side, collectivism. Society has long since evolved past the insignificant rivalries and concerns of individuals. We are numerous but one, and the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Very sort of Spocky type approach. Fanatic collectivism. The purpose of the individual is simple: strengthen the collective. To enter the blackness of space we move as one, and we shall not be weakened by wanton separatism. So, yes, the advantages and disadvantages of collectivism are, well, for one thing, your people are very tolerant of slavery. They also consume less food. So, it's assumed that by and large, the masters, at least, if not the servants, are very okay with the idea of people being forced to do what is best for the needs of the many. And because, people, there's a certain amount of self-restriction involved, there's less overall consumption of food. From each according to what the government needs of them, and to each according to their abilities, so long as it's rationed out carefully. With the individualists, of course, yes, no tolerance of slavery whatsoever. It's absolutely not on. Every man is the master of his is the captain of his is the master of his fate, the captain of his soul. No matter how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. But apart from that, this also leads to people very much going off and finding their own way in terms of ethics, which is not great if you're a government and desperately trying to keep people on the straight and narrow. But that's all that fierce competition does result in more energy. I think we're actually going to keep just individualism. This is this feels good for our people. That striving, that desperate striving for resources, I think, has really defined them. So we have xenophobia. The stakes could not be higher as we reach into the vast uncharted expanses of the galaxy. For we are gambling with the very survival of our species. Never trust the alien. Its false smile hides an unknowable mind. Xenophobia basically really screws up your relationships with alien empires. But on the flip side, xenophobic empires are generally pretty cool with slavery. At least, slavery of aliens. You can actually have an individualist xenophobic empire who are who wouldn't dream of enslaving their own people, but are surprisingly okay with enslaving aliens. Fanatic xenophobia. Any alien influence must be ruthlessly quashed. Only by staying pure and true to ourselves and the planet that gave us life can we guard against insidious xeno plots. Even mastery of the alien might not be enough to guarantee our own safety. Xenophilia. This just gives you, xenophilia. I believe it just results in a bonus to interactions with other nations. Oh, that's it. No. Because it affects people on the pop level, an individual sort of unit, socio-demographic unit within a planet. being xenophobic makes them unhappy when other races are in the same world, and xenophilia means that they're happy when they see other people in the same world. That was it. Other races in the same world. There exists in all of us a deep-seated fascination for the unknown, an adventurous spirit that rejects the familiar and glories in the unfamiliar, whatever or whomever it may be. If ever there was such a thing as an absolute moral imperative, it would be to explore the cosmos and embrace all within it. We were never meant to journey alone. I feel like the what's the name again? Kammarians. There we go. I feel like the Kammarians don't. They've been so focused on trying to survive. They're not really, that definite on whether they fear or hate other people. They mostly fear and hate themselves. So, militarist empires. Militarist empires gain extra army damage, and pops who are with who are militarist are actually quite happy when there's a war on. That sense of jingoism comes into effect. Also, when you declare rivalries against another empire, you gain extra influence because your people are on board with the idea of yes, let's stick it to Johnny Eight Eyes, show him what for, ha! And influence, that sort of measure of political capital, your ability to actually get things done within your empire, increases as the people sort of swim with you rather than away. But funnily enough, people aren't really willing to ally with individuals who have a tendency to go out and conquer people. The only true virtues are courage and discipline, and channeled properly, they can overcome any obstacle. Therein lies true strength. Force withheld, a promise made. The ability to project force is of paramount importance. The only way to preserve our way of life is to make sure everyone shares it, willingly or not. Pacifist empires, again, rivalry. People aren't impressed by you declaring rivalries. They aren't interested in war. They're actually very unhappy when wars happen. And they consider it sort of a bit of unnecessary posturing. But and even your armies, because of their strict pacifist beliefs, they shoot to stun, as it were, even if their weapons don't necessarily have stun settings. But as an empire, you get additional embassies, which are useful for improving the attitude of other species, and individual pops, as it were, socioeconomic units. A specific race and ethical leaning, are actually much better at harvesting food. Yeah, it's that sort of they take time away from thinking about war and just focus on making sure everyone has enough to eat. This is the Hobbit stance, as it were. Conflict as a means to an end is a ridiculous concept. It is by nature destructive, destroying what was to be obtained, or giving room to grow that which was to be destroyed. As civilized beings, the end of all armed conflict should be our primary concern. War is an evolutionary dead end, as futile as it is wasteful. Spiritualists. Spiritualists get a very simple bonus. Everyone's that little bit happier. That sense of inner well-being, communing with a higher destiny of the universe. Well, it makes it easier to bear your life slaving away in the mines on a toxic world filled with poisonous methane. Whether that's a good thing or a bad is up to individual interpretation. There are those who think it behooves us to remember how tiny we are, how pointless our lives in this vast, uncaring universe. What nonsense! The only truth we can ever know is that of our own existence. The universe, in all its apparent glory, is but a dream we all happen to share. Our science has proved that consciousness begets reality. We regard with patience the childlike efforts of those who delude themselves it is the other way round, as they play with their blocks of hard matter. Ooh, wow. Yeah, spiritualist and materialist are some of the most out there of fanatic views. Materialists, your people aren't happy the way that spiritualists are, but they do make excellent researchers. As we reach for the stars, we must put away childish things, gods, spirits, and other phantasms of the brain. Reality is cruel and unforgiving, yet we must steel ourselves and secure the survival of our race through the unflinching pursuit of science and technology. Again, it's quite a sort of cold view of the world, much less sort of enlightened than the spiritualist rule. But you can understand it. It's that sort of put your faith in the things around you, and put your shoulder to the wheel, instead of spending time praying. And then we get fanatic materialist. Lovely, lovely research bonuses, but although it hurts, we must grow up and put aside our outdated notions of morality. There is no divine spark granting special value to a living mind. No object has any intrinsic value apart from what we choose to grant it. Let us embrace the freedom of certitude and achieve maximum efficiency in all things. Yeah, we managed to go from we shouldn't waste our time praying to morality is an outmoded concept. And unfortunately, that is the world they grew up in. What is finally, the civilization that has taken them to the stars has been based on this sense of almost brutal, competition and, I suppose, rationality, although that's a loaded word. But yeah, that sense of trying to do the best. In fairness, true rationality. A true rationalist seeks to do the best for himself and for everyone else. But yeah, it's that sort of cold abandonment of ethics. This will come back for them. So we can also pick our governments. Now, because we are individualists, we cannot pick a despotic government type, any of these five, such as the despotic empire, the enlightened monarchy, which, despite being sort of pacifist, is still, not the idea of a one true king hasn't really cottoned on with them. We can't rule a despotic hegemony. Increases research speed and survey speed. A materialistic form of autocracy, where citizens are viewed as little more than cogs in the state machinery. Efficiency and technological progress are viewed valued above all things. Divine mandate and dictatorship. Well, what we can do is, because we're individualists, but not fanatic individualists, we can accept a form of oligarchic rule where a few wealthy individuals, rather than a single overarching monarch, is able governs the empire. Now, in an oligarchy, elections happen, but they tend to happen about once a lifetime. So, in a plutocratic oligarchy, this government is a plutocratic form of oligarchy, ruled by a wealthy elite. The citizens' personal wealth translates directly into political power. Yeah, this is the Merchant Republic route. It's great for energy and minerals, not really great for anything else. But, as materialists, we can run the Science Directorate, a materialist form of oligarchy where a committee of scientists supervises the government apparatus for maximum efficiency. It's quite cool. It increases the number of leaders we can have, very useful, and it increases our research alternatives. Now, when we get to down to research, instead of a tech tree, we have a tech deck of cards, and it pulls out 3 cards which are weighted towards, cheaper techs tend to be weighted towards the front, rarer techs do still pop up occasionally, as do the more advanced ones. Science Directorate increases the number of cards we can pull each term. Each time we go to research something. Quite useful. We can also be an indirect democracy, where citizens vote on officials who are elected to represent them, much like the form of democracy that prevails throughout the Western world, in which we elect our members of Parliament for us, councillors, I suppose. Is it senators and what's the American one? Congressman, the one that nobody apparently cares about, if I'm to judge by American telly. It results in very skilled leaders, very cheap leaders, but perhaps not necessarily representing the wishes of their people so well. Alternately, however, there is the direct democracy, which I notice has been slightly nerfed compared to what I've seen in the past, where that was +5. It's a materialistic form of democracy where citizens used computer networks to vote directly on most matters regarding the state. It increases the number of core sector planets, so the planets that we can operate directly without needing to create sectors, essentially sort of governed states to run our country, different sectors of space without our direct influence, much like vassals in Crusader Kings. But less like vassals in EU4, which actual vassals are like. I'm sorely tempted to take this, but the thing is, when I was younger, I always used to think direct democracy would be an excellent idea, and then I encountered the X Factor. And in a direct democracy, the shortest arguments win. The shortest and most appealing sounding arguments win. And there's no time for reasoned thought and argument. It is kind of, it's true, it's enlightened, but it's still true mob rule after a fashion. But then again, I suppose you should trust your people. If you don't treat your people with respect and assume that they will make sensible decisions, why will they? Someone has to take the first step. So, is everything formed by wealth, science, democracy, or, well, technically republicanism, or actual democracy? You know what, I think that these people have been squabbling, these Kammarians, I think it is, just double check again, keep forgetting the name. These Kammarians have lived a brutal, constantly infighting life for centuries, millennia, and what joined them, in an earlier form, yes, plutocrats held the purse strings of empire, and they kept, knit everything together. But I think finally they've reached a point where the only way to really get the whole planet was to permit these electronic referendums. Especially considering, there are, given the relative size of these Kammarians, there are probably many billions of them. On that scale, it might actually end up, with that sort of technology, it may well end up being more efficient to rule that way. Regardless, more people are willing to consent to being ruled, and that, I think, counts for a lot. Oh, no randomised offers? Really? Alright. So, it's Caliban, the Kammarians. Would you name it the Human Federation? I don't think you would, no. Well, unless there's more of a xenophobic choice, so if you were human, it's your Kammarian, but... The science director would be the rational state, right? Calibanese Union, I suppose, if we could take the European Union, right? Union does work, but I don't know, Great Caliban. It could be. Could go for that. Yeah, alright. Great Caliban. You know what, I think I'll leave off the ship prefix. Alright then, so colours. Well, they come from a... Actually quite like that sort of... Oh, comes in... Those are satisfying, aren't they? Oh, I like that sort of Spartan look. Right, so what other options do we have for flag emblems? It's quite nice. A sense of unity. I like that. It's a good start. Mind you though, so ornate. I don't think ornate feels right, but human. I can take the fascist symbol. Pirate. Rawr. Not this one, but maybe another time. Maybe we will play a pirate one at some point. That would be quite satisfying. Pointing. A unified head to the stars. Again, it's that I want that sense of things being, you know, many joining together into one. Oh, there's a classic, isn't it? Oh no, the march of technology. It's quite satisfying. That looks familiar. Again. That sort of half-shaded world. That could actually be quite good. I like that, yeah. Okay, so one of the choices you can make is what weapons you start with. Now you can pick up other weapon types throughout the game, but these are what you start with, and that's what your research is largely going to focus around, enhancing your basic, you know, 3 types of weapons. Now, yeah, I think it's going to pull up research based on those. So the only way to really get another type is to research it off the wreck of someone else, and I think you can only, you know, use one anyway. So. Although I'm not sure. Maybe you can swap them out. I'm not really sure. Projectile weapons. Mass drivers. Essentially, these are just space guns. Short range, high rate of fire. If you can get in close, you can do a lot of damage, but if you can get in close. Medium range, the energy weapon. Ignores, cuts through armour. I quite like that. Good sort of all-rounder type fight. But I feel, you know, these guys don't like they don't relish combat. They don't, you know, relish peace either. So I think they, you know, rely on their technology. They like to zip in, fire a salvo of missiles, and then run away. Yeah, very sort of hit and run style. Okay, so another of the big choices. I've spent a lot of time on this. I think once we get this set up, I'm actually going to call this episode 0, and we'll proceed with, we'll proceed through to episode 1 with actually starting the game. So, our 3 forms of faster than light travel. Warp drive. The warp drive creates a subspace bubble around a ship, making faster than light speeds attainable. Allows for free but slow travel between stars. Warp travel works like the classic warp drive. It doesn't increase your speed, but it sort of contracts space so that you have less distance to travel. Hyperspace. Hyperdrives allow them to temporarily breach the dimension of hyperspace. Interstellar travel is fast, but limited to existing paths along the hyperlane network. That's the thing, there are these existing lanes throughout the galaxy, and yeah, it lets you sorry, it's burping. Being able to travel along the pre-existing lanes it's very fast. It's you know, some of the fast. It's much faster than warp travel, but you can only travel along the hyperlanes. It is very difficult to get another FTL method of travel, by the way. As you can only travel along the hyperlanes, it does create strategic choke points, but some of the hyperlanes allow much further travel than the warp drive would permit. Finally, there's wormhole travel. Wormhole generators tunnel through subspace and establish a conduit between 2 points, permitting travel across vast distances. The large generators are too big to be fitted on ships, requiring special wormhole stations to operate. And these, instead of shunting you into a different dimension or compressing space, these are the classic folding space. They just take one bit of space, pinch it with another, and create a hole through the middle. But these are... the wormhole travel is fast, but it's very limited. You can only travel to and from wormhole generators. And it's only within very specific... it's only within the range of that generator. So, for this game, since it's my first, we'll be going with Warp Drive. Okay, it's purely cosmetic. Oh, look at that avian ship. Too high-tech looking for us. That is too sleek. But, oh, no, I think we have the rather blocky, uncharismatic looking Romanian ships. Right, we're a direct democracy. Oh yes, because we're a democracy instead of an oligarchy, we hold an election every 5 years. So that's going to be very interesting. I don't really know how it's going to go down. We'll find out. Our primary race are the Kammarians, a tiny, slow breeding race who spend a lot of time raising their children, but fierce competition has left them intelligent and very thrifty with their limited resources. They prefer to... they use warp travel. That's how they discovered their ability to get around the universe. They prefer to fight at range because of their a tactic that carries back from their own sort of weak and limited ability to engage in strict combat. And they've got a quite and at times blocky, but they're somewhat aspirational view. They've grown up on a fairly bleak tundra world, and yes, they have a dedication to taming the universe, with each man forging his own link in the great chain. And with that, gentle viewers, I'm going to call an end to this episode. See you next time for episode 1, where great Caliban sets out to the stars.